Hello there everyone, my name is Octavian, it is good to be back once again. Here's another episode of Open Mic for you. Coming from my microphone, straight to your headset. Well, not quite straight, it goes through quite a different set of pipes. You see, the internet is a series of tubes. And one of them goes to YouTube and then right into your headset. But anyways, I digress. This particular match, taken from the highest level of North American solo queue, somewhere rather between Master Tier and Challenger Tier. With 10 players on the match, it is often hard to determine exactly where the match as a whole averages out to, but it is somewhere in that range. And one of the reasons why I chose this particular replay to showcase for you guys is because we've got two of what I call specialists, high-level specialists in this match. Diana 2, playing, well, Diana in the mid lane, and Jackoo playing Kha'Zix, both renowned for their respective champions, and both, well, on their respective champions this particular match. And I find these kinds of players incredibly fascinating. The ability to take a single set of characteristics, a single move set, a single way of playing the game. Though to be fair, Kha'Zix and Diana both have multiple play styles, but they are still somewhat limited. There's opportunity cost there. By choosing to play only Kha'Zix or only Diana, you are of course locking yourself out of the other options in the game, everything else that you could potentially have played in that matchup. If you don't know, if you practice only one champion all the way up to Master Tier, at that point you don't have the option to play a lot of other champions because you've only played Diana, you've only played Kha'Zix up until that level. And while your basic mechanics, things like farming, things like positioning, are likely going to be equally good on any other champion, champion-specific mechanics, combos, and specific kinds of positioning, as like the way Diana positions is, for instance, much different than the way Japan Man is going to have to be positioning on this Caitlyn, will feel alien to you. And so it sort of locks you out of other options while providing you with an extreme mastery of a single one. It's a very interesting way of playing the game, and as such, I'm always quite interested in it. And we'll have to get into the matchups that they are facing off against. Jackoo, of course, in the jungle, not going to be facing off against any specific sort of champion, but does have something of a matchup against Ninja Ken's Hecarim. They're going to have to vie for map control and see whether or not the not-so-well-regarded Kha'Zix can fare well against the moderately well-regarded Hecarim in this meta. Raking his base going in, the exhaust has been dropped onto RF, and this is a ghost exhaust Rengar up here. Very difficult to escape from. RF, still, nice sidestep on the Bolas, does get away, but he takes a lot of damage for it. Goes down to about 200 health. That'll allow Raken to equalize the CS disadvantage that he fell into, probably because of the range difference. And it actually does force the teleport out of RF. It's a fairly impactful cooldown. This early in the game, it's not as big a deal. RF probably wasn't going to be teleporting anywhere right around now, but if that isn't back up in time for the first dragon fight, or for, indeed, any sort of global pressure that's needed in the bottom lane, if there's some sort of huge skirmish going on down there, it could mean quite a big deal in this game moving forward. Another thing that could mean quite a big deal in this game, Diana is having some mana problems in the mid lane. Health is trading about evenly between these two, most likely because of that shield mechanic that Diana has, uniquely valuable against a LeBlanc, who's going to be distortioning in onto your face, so you're likely to be able to get the reset on the shield and get extra value out of the spellcast. But still, the mana cost difference there means that Poppers is doing quite a good job of keeping up the pressure in this lane. Down by a bit of farm, but might be able to get Jackoo in here for an opportunistic gank. Now it looks like Jackoo's going to be heading on home back to base, and Thurtle and Iotis are getting pushed away here by Pigeon Wings and Japan Man. Not exactly something too surprising. Actually, Japan Man turned into a squirrel there. He was forced to net away, but that is a perfectly viable trade for him. Ninjaken coming in from the side. He's going to be charging in onto them. Pigeon Wings going incredibly low, forced to flash away. Japan Man now turns around with the Pilt over Peacemaker, and Iotis and Thurtle decide it's not worth chasing any further. They've got the flash. The gank at least paid off somewhat. And they're going to back away from that one. Raken goes in with 5 stacks of ferocity, but he is in a large minion wave. And those chunks from the third auto attacks on the hyper proc are doing some good damage for RF, but he gets hit by the W, he gets hit by the empowered Q out of the bush. Raken is Bay, picks up the first blood in the top lane, and that is a really impactful first blood. Rengar can start to snowball a lane hard if he's given the opportunity. And Rengar is going to be a really valuable asset for blue team in this matchup here. Just looking at the compositions between the two teams, there is not really a front line. There's not really peel for red team right now. And against a Rengar who got first blood and might be able to snowball that lane, that could be a huge problem for red team moving forward. Diana 2 has based and come back to lane, so the mana problems no longer exist, and he's actually going to push that up. That is one of the advantages that Diana has against a LeBlanc. Distortion is LeBlanc's only real wave clear tool, whereas Diana is very powerful at clearing out a wave. Auto attack, passive, helping her out, not even costing any mana there. And then, of course, both the shield and the crescent. Very, very valuable as AoE tools for bringing down that wave and bringing down the sun. As I was, actually Popper going in onto Diana 2 there. Gets traded back about evenly as a Q follows him away. And as I was talking about the compositions earlier, there is something else that I would like to hit on here. While red team is missing the sort of front line they might want to bring to bear against a Hecarim, Diana, and Rengar, they also have the ability to dive in and sort of counter-assassinate the enemy team as well. They've got Popper OP and Jackoo both providing a lot of ability to leap to the backlines and jump onto people like Diana here. The flash away, however, the slow did connect from Jackoo's passive, and the Ignite is burning, picks up the kill with one more summary claw to the back of the neck. That'll be even now on kills between the two teams, even essentially on gold, about 100 difference in favor of red team. And Popper and Jackoo will push up the mid lane and look to deny a bit of CS over to Diana, even up that CS disadvantage. That was in favor of blue team. Maybe take it and put it in favor of red. Bot lane is a lane we haven't really spent a ton of time on, and that's probably because overall this is not a very exciting looking lane as far as the laning phase goes. Caitlyn Soraka is one of the most potentially passive lanes there is, and I say potentially passive because they also do have the potential to be really harass focused. But if they don't want to do that, if they want to simply opt out of fights, they have that option available nearly all the time to them with so much ability to just stand way back away from everything and heal up. Now RF once again in trouble. Raken and Bay coming in, this time with Ninja Ken in tow. The exhaust has been dropped. He uses some really nice stun mechanics against the wall and just on the ground with his gigantic dino fist. But it doesn't seem to matter. Ninja Ken, no fear for the tower. Picks up a kill. Blue team now, the 100 gold in their favor, but still not really an impactful swap in either direction here as far as pressure goes, except for the top lane. And that might actually be enough to swing the match. If things continue as they are, that Rengar will become quite a large problem, and Pigeon Wings won't have too much of a way of dealing with it. I mean, just think about the amount of ways that a Soraka can deal with a Rengar leaping to the backlines. There's, of course, all the healing that Soraka can put out, but Rengar has a lot of consistent DPS. A lot of people know him for his burst, leaping on him into your face and chunking away 2/3 of your hit points before you can even say boo, but he also has good consistent DPS with the way that this Rengar is building. Oh, Popper gets blocked by a minion there on that chain. Nice swap away. At the last second avoids the skill shot return from Diana. And as I was saying, the consistent damage means that he's going to be able to burn through that extra hit points anyways. It's not that big a deal. There's no way to get the Rengar off of the Caitlyn unless the Caitlyn can do it herself. And that is a really, really big problem. They're going to have to get Japan Man ahead here. It's not good enough, I don't think, for them to just hold even like they're doing. I think Japan Man needs a lead to be able to deal with this. But Raken is coming on in onto RF. He leaps away, hops across a minion to get out of trouble. Meanwhile, on the other side, there is a counter to Popper OP. There is a counter to Jackoo here. There's a Lulu. And, indeed, even a Hecarim to some extent. But mainly the Lulu is going to be there, avoiding the Kha'Zix. Speaking of Kha'Zix, Ninja Ken is not doing a very good job of avoiding him. Half of his health gone in an instant. Isolated damage is still very scary from a Kha'Zix. Haven't seen too much of him played. But Jackoo able to know the limits of his champion, know exactly what sort of duels he can and cannot take. And Diana, in the same boat. Oh no, that's the clone. Leaps onto the correct one, though. The Ignite is burning. No, Diana. No, Diana, that's the right one. Diana, no! He walked away from it, and it wasn't the right one. I was even fooled. They got me! Popper OP. Popper truly is OP, because usually I don't make that mistake, but, you know, I'm not there's a reason I'm not Challenger or Master, guys. I get fooled. I get bamboozled by LeBlanc clones. But thankfully, even a Challenger and Master tier player got bamboozled by the LeBlanc clones along with me, as Diana actually burned the Ignite on the clone. That is unfortunate. But what can you do about it? That is the Ignite down for Diana in the mid lane. Popper does still have his up, but he traded the flash out for it. So Diana's flash is down as well. So the 1v1 between Popper and Diana right now is going to be fairly heavily in favor of Popper, actually, because they're rather even right now. The assist for Popper is making up for some of that CS deficit. Not all of it. Probably about 8 to 10 CS worth of gold. Turtle continues to look for the harass. Doesn't realize Jackoo is off in the bush, though. If they were to go too aggressive on this, Jackoo could make a gank work here. Turtle continuing to eat the cupcakes just to make sure that they're not around in case of a real big fight. And Rake in his bay is getting leapt on by RF here. Probably not the best fight for him to choose. So many minions. RF actually gets traded back an equal amount of damage just from the minion harass and the AoE off of that roar, and I believe an auto attack as well, since he does have the team alongside it. Some pings around Dragon and some really good ward coverage for Red around Dragon. Means we might be seeing a fight down here sometime soon. Indeed, we're going to be seeing it right now. Iotis turns around the Flame Chompers. Japan Man going incredibly low. The ult comes out, but it doesn't quite finish, and the exhaust is there. But the heal, there is so much healing from this duo. Bot sidesteps the zap and manages to escape, and that is all of Iotis' resources gone. Well, to be fair, not the summoners. Flash and heal are still up, but all of Iotis' offensive resources are gone, as Rake in his bay is getting leapt on by RF here. Jackoo now in the bottom lane. And defensive ulti from Turtle as he flashes away as well. Oh, the zap comes out. Just enough mana to cast that one. Now turning onto Japan Man with the help of a few minions. Chunks him down somewhat, but Jackoo's over the wall. No, Iotis, you were way out of position here. Here comes Jackoo. The heal is there. Is the flash available? Is it enough? No, it is not. It's not even burned. Jackoo picks up the kill, and Turtle, no mana, slowed down, double kill for the Kha'Zix. 3-0-0. Every kill for his team so far, in the right place, at the right time. And that is all you need. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what champion you have if you're in that sort of position. So having somebody with the ability to do that much damage and get that much assassination potential out onto low health targets, that is just the perfect situation. That is like a dream gank for somebody like a Kha'Zix, part of the cleanup crew. A lot of things to clean up right there. A low health, no summoner's Jinx who doesn't have any mana. That's pretty much the easiest possible target that there is. It's like if William Tell, instead of putting the apple on the kid's head, he put the apple on a table right in front of him and used a hammer. It's not even a contest. You don't get into the history books for that one, but you do get a smashed apple, which for Jackoo means 300 gold. And, indeed, a Sword of the Occult. 5 stacks on that already. When you do buy it, it does come preloaded with a few stacks now, as does the Magi's. Zap still connects, but that's not a big deal. Soraka can make the boo-boo go away. As Diana was looking top for a gank, but that pink ward is going to dissuade him. Zap flies out again. Iotis trying to lay the harass down, but it is a difficult lane to harass away. Popper OP sitting in the bush gets the grab, I think. Yes, he did. Got the speed buff there, so he had the grab. Ninjakin comes into the bottom lane, but that is Jackoo already smiting it away, and with the Q, secures it. Turtle popping the ulti, basically for no impactful cooldowns from red team there. And they lost out on the dragon, so blue really coming out disfavorably in that bottom lane engagement. And red team, despite having a very passive bottom lane, is doing quite well down there. They've got the CS lead, which is something to be expected in this matchup, and they've got the dragon as well as a kill. Not to their pockets. Sure, Jackoo is the one who picked that one up, but that is a decent place to have it, especially if Jackoo is going to invest so heavily in being aggressive this game. That buy of the Sword of the Occult, as well as the Warrior Enchantment, means that he's going to have to get more action. He's going to have to make more plays on the board. He's really invested in his ability to do so, and if it works, if it pays off, this game is as good as won. Because there is very, very limited amounts of ways that the enemy team can deal with Jackoo if he does get 10 or more stacks on that Sword of the Occult. It's just a matter of getting there. Finding the right opportunities. So far, he's managed to do it. If things continue as they are, it may be enough to counteract this top lane lead from Raken. To be fair, though, RF has done a decent job of counteracting it himself. He's got the CS lead, and he's built very correctly here. Ninja Tabby into a Warden's Mail, into a Chain Vest. No way that Rengar kills him anymore. And they're going to be going in for the semi-dive onto Diana, chasing her away from the turret so RF can get some damage onto it. Jackoo up in the top lane, though. If he gets this kill, this could actually be really big here. Raken his Bay turns around, gets the fit stack of Ferocity, and Jackoo decides the minions are easier prey than the Rengar is. Ninja Ken down in the bottom lane, just doing some vision control, as RF continues the pressure in the mid lane. Mega Gnar, Mini Gnar, doesn't matter. He's going to be taking down that turret. As Ninja Ken once again roams towards bottom, really looking to make this play work. Took out the Tribrush ward, came all the way around through the river, is sitting in the bush there, but there is another ward that spots him, and actually he's going to get interrupted in his basing as LeBlanc roams from the mid. Japan Man gets hit by the zap, but that is gone. The Boo-Boo goes away because Soraka's in the lane. And Japan Man pops the ace in the hole, actually, just as a way to continue to delay the base from Ninja Ken. He's been sitting in this bottom lane for a long time. Meanwhile, Jackoo's been farming and is caught up, not only in CS, but he's still got that 2-kill lead. Whoa, the damage from Diana! Abyssal Scepter, 2 Doran's Rings, that is all you need onto a target as squishy as Popper. Jackoo, though, coming out of the bush. No time for Diana to react until he's right next to him. Good use of the invisibility there. The Ignite, rather, is burning, but Jackoo still wants the kill. And with good reason, he's got to stack up that sword. 2 more for him. 7 now. And so long, I believe the gold works out that so long as it is above 5, it is being gold efficient. Here comes Raken. Whoa! 2 shot. To be fair, it was a half health LeBlanc, not exactly the tankiest of targets, but Raken is Bay still showing off his ability to gain stacks as well. Sword of the Occult for him. And this is a mono-y-mono for the ages. Ninja Ken leaping over the wall with his ulti just to escape from Jackoo there. Big, important cooldown down. Cooldown down. That's a fun one to say. As bot lane continues to be the most boring place on the map. As far as this particular match goes, no real offense meant to any of these players. It is not their fault. It is the simple fact of the Lulu Jinx versus Caitlyn Soraka matchup that it is not inherently very explosive. Whereas the rest of the map, quite inherently, is Diana, Rengar, Kha'Zix, lots of exciting back lane leaping champions, but we might see some excitement in the bottom lane anyways. Snare doesn't quite land onto Iotis, turns around with a zap, but it hits a minion. There's the ulti from Turtle. They are doing their absolute darndest to try and protect this Jinx. The exhaust onto Jackoo. Jinx is getting away from the divers, and now Jackoo, with nothing left, is going to be going down here. The ult lands, shut down gold, and half the stacks down. It is no longer gold efficient. 4 stacks left on that Sword of the Occult. Pigeon Wings now. Whoa, actually no, RF is doing some amazing positioning here. Dealing with almost the entirety of blue team, but it might not be enough. He goes down to about a third as Ninja Ken falls to Japan Man, who was not touched during this whole fight. Overall, that is going to be a 2-4-2 trade. Raken is Bay looking to make it more in favor of blue, but Popper OP is not going to give up that easily. Diana 2 might be in some trouble now from RF. The slow lands another proc of Hyper would mean he'd be able to keep going with this chase. Ad infinitum. RF picks up the kill. Diana 2 goes down. And that fight was turned in favor of Red Team by the actions. The MVP of that fight for Red Team is RF. That was a beautifully placed Gnar ulti. That was just a beautifully placed Gnar in general. Even if the ulti was down, that would have been the perfect place for him to be in. The ulti was certainly incredibly valuable for him and helped him do that zoning, but as I was saying earlier, red team has no ability to zone, has no ability to peel, except for RF's Gnar. And I didn't think that would be enough. I had no faith. But my faith, perhaps, was not placed where it should have been, because RF did a beautiful job of peeling during that fight, and now Thurtle is going to be just another 2 stacks for Jackoo. Finds the wrong champion wandering through that river. Had it been the Soraka, he would have been fine, but no, it was the LeBlanc. And it is much more difficult to escape from a blue buff LeBlanc than it is from the majority of other things in this game. Even as a Lulu. Even as somebody with as many escape options as the little Faye Yordle has, LeBlanc is still a tricky mix to try and get away from. Ninja Ken taking down that blue buff, giving it over to himself actually. Diana too was off on the other side of the map, looking to try and roam to the bottom lane. Lots of careful pings from both teams here actually. As Jackoo is sitting in the tri-brush, we might see a repeat of just a few minutes ago. Sans this tower. As Jackoo gets hit by the zap, Raken is Bay coming in with the ghost active and his ult as well. The speed buff after the ult wears out. This guy is a fast kitty, but he's not able to close the gap. Nicely placed net from Japan Man. Make sure if that is Ninja Ken up in the top lane. Is just looking to clear out some minions, but RF wants to go for the dive. He knows he has a LeBlanc in his back pocket. There's the chain under the tower, and Ninja Ken will go down to Popper, who is very much OP. That needlessly large rod completed means that he can clear out minion waves almost as easily as he can clear out Hecarims. In the top lane turret, secondary one will fall down. Diana too is going for a bit of a last-ditch effort in the bottom lane. Pigeon Wings dodges out from the rocket, but not from the Diana. Does go down in the end, but they're giving up so much map pressure for this one. They lost the top lane turret, the mid lane is getting shoved in, and Popper OP is roaming to the bottom lane looking for some sort of opportunistic kill here. Japan Man just going to be using the ulti to stop some bases. Popper OP does some damage to Raken, but doesn't land the chain. It looks like that'll be the end of the action in bottom lane. Ooh, no, actually Zap lands onto Japan Man. Had anyone else from blue team been around, he could have been in dire straits, but thankfully it was just a Jinx from really far away. And the ulti was down. Had the Jinx ulti been up, he could have been in dire straits as well. But, thankfully, blue was essentially resourceless in that situation. So despite being hit by quite a nice zap, not too much comes of it. Iotis is beginning to bring the crits in full force. Looks to be going into a Phantom Dancer most likely after this Infinity Edge. The crit cloak built as the first item. Rolling the dice here during these fights. If it comes up crit, then he could... Whoa! RF, no, he misses the ult there. The wallop does connect, but Popper OP has already burned his damage. And Diana has already eaten it with the shield. That is unfortunate. Now RF might be in some trouble. Reagan's Bacon to be leaping out. Lands the snare. Popper turns around, takes away half of the Rengar's health. That is a really, really sad story for RF. I think it was a few pixels away from landing the Gnar ulti there. Oof. It's just physical pain. Physical pain. Even for me, I'm not even playing this game. I'm not even on red team here. I'm the impartial observer. But there was physical pain for that missed skill shot. So close to being so wonderful for Gnar. But in the end, it doesn't even matter. And RF is going to continue to build very, very tanky, which is probably the best plan for him. His team really needs that sort of thing. Popper OP gets Lulu'd away, but does actually trade favorably in terms of cooldowns. The LeBlanc ult was burned, but that's not too huge a deal compared to the Lulu one. Ooh, Popper, half your health is gone, more than half your health is gone. Diana, too, is a force to be reckoned with, didn't even take damage through the shield. Sort of an ace up the sleeve for blue team. They're on the back foot in most ways. Raken is Bay is demonstrating that for us right now. The chain connects. Jackoo looking for the cleanup, but Pigeon Wings will pick that one up. Diana 2 now getting exhausted, forced to flash out of the fight as Jackoo does go down in the end. Double kill for Ninja Ken. Perfectly timed. Hecarim comes and saves the day. RF stuns him up against the wall. He will go down in the end, but the cavalry have arrived. And red team has nothing left to throw at this fight. Diana 2 actually going to keep on going with the chase. Nice net, though. Slows him down and Brings Caitlyn over the wall. Japan Man. Gonna nix any thoughts of a double kill that might have been brewing in Diana 2's mind. Iotis is on the tower for just a little bit, and it's already down to half health. That is the power of a Jinx. But they don't quite have enough minions to finish it off, even with the power of a Jinx. And RF is not exactly an easy target to dive, even at that sort of hit points. Diana 2 could probably make pretty short work of him. His magic resistance is almost nil. But Jinx is just going to be essentially firing toothpicks out of that minigun when it comes to shooting at RF. Thornmail and a Randuin's, as well as Ninja Tabby on top of that. Kind of the build path he was forced to take, though, given that he got first blooded up in the top lane, and there's a Sword of the Occult Rengar facing off against him. Speaking of Sword of the Occults, I think it's a good time to check in on how those are doing. 5 stacks for the Rengar, so evening out in terms of gold value, whereas Jackoo is overpaying for what he's got here. 4 stacks for him. And where he is right now, not too many looking in his future. He has completed the Ravenous Hydra, though, and that is a gold-efficient item, no matter which way you look at it. So that's going to be helping him out. No potential of losing that efficiency. That is really why you don't see a Sword of the Occult built in most competitive play, because it's gold that you're potentially just wasting, and that is not good. You want the guaranteed thing if you're trying to win as well as you can. Diana turns around onto Popper, but that might not have been the right call. RF is using his ult only onto him, but that is enough. Japan Man picks up the kill as Jackoo is now in the 1v1 with Raken. Who will win? Who will get the stacks? And who will lose the stacks? Neither one, apparently. As Jackoo escapes back into his own jungle, and Raken escapes back into his, but just in time for the dragon to spawn. Red team is here with 5 members, full force. Ninja Ken looking, maybe for the steal, ults over the wall, gets it! With the damage from his ult and the smite, then flashes back to safety. Beautifully played. I have to applaud for that one. Very nice. Nothing too fancy, nothing too flighty, just simple R, smite, flash. Whatever his flash is on, D or F, we're all people here. We're all human beings. D, F, it doesn't matter. We don't have to fight anymore. D can be for flash just as much as F can be. You just have to have an open mind about it. Somebody is on the way to the enemy nexus. Lots of things going on as blue team sends 3 members up the mid lane, and we come to a bit of a lull in the action here. It is interesting to see exactly how Diana is choosing to build, going into the pardon me, something in my throat. Going into the Zhonya's Hourglass. A very defensive build path for Diana 2, despite the fact that he did decently out of the lane. He's got a 20 CS lead, and he's got 2 kills to his name. The 4 deaths are unfortunate, but he's got some gold in his pocket. And still choosing not to upgrade those boots too, that is an option that I personally would not have gone with. The extra movement speed would be incredibly nice on the sort of melee assassin that he's playing, but then again, so is the tankiness. Diana with resistances is very, very valuable because you get that resetting shield that scales with your AP, so you have a lot of effective hit points if you build into some resistance. And so an MR item and a armor item proving to be very, very valuable for him. And he still does enough damage to be quite a threat. Here comes RF, he's going for yet another ult onto Diana. Can he land it? No, this time there's a Rengar leaping onto his backline. Jackoo's down to half health, but Diana hasn't been able to bring his damage to bear on anyone. He's been forced to play defensively this whole fight, and now he's peeled to the back by Iotis. Might be able to pick up the slack here. RF goes down for the double kill. He has the red buff, and he's chasing out of Pigeon Wings. This is a Soraka against a red buff Jinx. There is no way out of this one. Raken is Bay. Picks up the kill and a lot of stacks. And is an 8-stack Rengar, double the stacks. Double of the Kha'Zix that he's up against. And the way this game is going, we might be pulling out into the later game, where the Rengar versus Kha'Zix matchup could actually be impactful. We get that epic quest for the ages, where whoever kills the other one gets quite a significant buff. Kha'Zix gets a 4th evolution, and Rengar gets a fully stacked version of his passive item, if I recall correctly. Now, honestly, that doesn't show up often enough. I can't say with 100% accuracy that I know exactly what it is. I'm sure someone in the comments will tell me. As Diana 2 goes in onto RF here, but perhaps not the best target. The Baron is beating in onto blue team. Zhonya's popped. behind the Baron there. Flashes away to the other side. RF brings down Ninja Ken and Rake in his bay. Gets peeled off of. Legendary. Jackoo comes in from the back line, picks up the double kill, and picks up the stacks that he lost. Takes away the stacks from the Rengar, the ace for red team, the Baron as well. This is the turnaround that they were looking for. To be fair, the game was... Whoa. No, Popper. No, Popper, that was the wrong time to distortion in. Oh, that was such the wrong time to distortion in. I was confused as to what happened. I saw it, and I didn't quite believe it, but Popper went down to an auto attack from the Baron just as he leapt onto the purple thing's face. That is unfortunate. What is fortunate for red team is the fact that they just picked up an ace and a Baron. I would say that that is one of the more fortunate things that can happen to you in this game. And it's going to, hopefully, lead into some map pressure for them. Something which they can do fairly well. They have the Caitlyn in their back pocket. And Soraka as well. Long, extended engagements are something of this bot lane's forte. Doesn't really play into the strengths of the rest of the team. Jackoo and Popper play a much different game, leaping around and being general nonsensical nuisances to the enemy team. Whereas RF is kind of a misfit as far as this game goes, which is very appropriate. One of the only team fighting champion really on his team. Everybody else wants to skirmish or siege, but Gnar wants to go in, Gnar wants to throw them against a wall, Gnar wants to toss around the enemy team like a bunch of dominoes. Nobody else is going to want to follow him up, but he can do it himself. Gnar doesn't need team. Gnar only needs his trusty boomerang, or house, depending on whether or not he's large. I've never really understood how that transformation works, but maybe he's just hiding a tiny house in his back pocket, and when he gets larger, it does too. This game is magical and full of things that cannot be quite explained. I think that's probably the least of our problems here. Speaking of transformations, Mega Gnar is just about to come up, so if red team wants to go for a dive, now would be the time. Or rather, now or sometime within the next few moments would be the time. And it probably explains why blue team backed up pretty far there. Waiting for that Mega Gnar to wear down. There it is. And RF won't have that available for quite a little while now. This could be the window, alternatively, for blue team to go in, and RF is actually getting engaged on. Raken realizes this, and he's going to be leaping in as well. Ninja Ken gets everybody around him knocked up by that Lulu ulti. Well placed. Chunks of his health are flying off, though. RF gets snared up, gets slowed up. That'll be a 1-for-0 trade in favor of blue team. At least they could pull something out of that. Japan Man turns around with the ace in the hole. But despite it doesn't really live up to its name there. It's proper OP, just does a bit of scouting and hops back to the platform. Diana 2 going in, but that was the wrong time. Zhonya's tries to bait in the enemy team. Popper OP gets the kill and gets on out. The specialty of a LeBlanc. As Jackoo picks up one for himself. Continuing to bring on those stacks. 11 so far. Turtle down below half health. RF coming in as well. The ult is still there. RF has not had to use it. The very threat of that Mega Gnar ult has been shaping the way this team fight has flown. In either direction, it is the reason why blue team went for that engage, and it is the reason why they had to back away after they only got one kill out of it. Now Raken looking to try and clean something up out of these low health enemies, but he doesn't quite have the burst for Jackoo, and now Popper is coming in, and he has a bunch of burst himself. His passive is broken there. Or popped, I suppose. As Jackoo eats the ulti and barely stays alive, thanks to the heal from Pigeon Wings earlier. And then the heals afterwards. Make sure that he gets out safely, even after getting eaten by the giant mouth in the end of the Jinx run. Dragon goes down. No contest from blue team there. 3-1 now in terms of dragons, 7-1 in terms of turrets, the far more impactful number this game. That is the reason why red team has always had the goal advantage past maybe the 25-minute mark or so. They have put much more of a premium on this turret pushing. We saw RF roam down to the mid lane, spent a lot of time there just to push that turret. Bottom lane, of course, being the Caitlyn-Soraka matchup, got some good early damage on the turret as well. They've had a focus on that throughout this game, sort of in the background. And blue team really has not. Whether or not it's because they've not put a focus on it, or just because they've not had the resources to be able to put a focus on it. Either way, it ends up with the same result. A 7-1 turret discrepancy in favor of red. Not exactly something to be sneezed at, as we see a teleport from RF behind blue team's lines. He is going in ham for this one. His team is still way off in the bleachers, but it doesn't matter. They just can't hurt this Gnar. That is just a few hundred of his hit points gone, whereas Ninja Ken nearly loses all of his, loses all of his. This is disaster for blue team. Iotius gets hit by a wallop at max range. Diana 2 and Thurtle, all that are left for blue team, and they are not enough. This is going to be red team, most likely picking up the victory here. Diana puts up a valiant effort, but nearly all of his health gone now. Jackoo coming in for the last few hits under the Nexus. There it is. 18 stacks, one more kill. Come on, Thurtle, give him the kill. Give him the 20 stacks. Now it looks like red team's going to pick up the victory before Jackoo can pick up his 20 stack. Sort of the occult. Mastery emote appropriate. As we finalize yet another shoutcast. Thank you guys for watching. My name is Octavian. I'll be seeing you next time. Welcome to the end of the video. If you enjoyed it and are looking for more to watch, feel free to check out the rest of the Open Mic series, or perhaps head on over to my personal YouTube channel, where you'll find dozens more just like it. Anyways, thanks for watching.